So first thing I'm going to do in the process of squaring everything up is take off the piece of junk blade that came with the saw and put on a real saw blade. This is an FS Tool XL 4000. It's a 100 tooth, probably wouldn't need that many teeth, but this is a really good blade. So now I've got a good blade on the saw. Next we need to see how it is, how bad we're off. Everyone's probably heard of a 4-cut test or a 5-cut test. That's the best way to get a saw really perfectly dialed in, but I find it's a lot better to start with just a visual, just by using good squares. So you do need a good square. Your regular old framing square off the shelf might be okay, but it's not going to be great. I like this 12-inch woodpecker square, works great for off of the base, and then I actually bought this 6-inch square specifically for checking the bevel, and this works really well. It's the only thing I use this for. So that being said, we'll drop the head and see what we're looking like. So first off, probably the easiest adjustment to make on a DeWalt saw especially is the bevel adjustment. And here I can see, based off of my square, I've actually got probably close to a 1/16 of an inch gap on the bottom with it being tight on top. So then I'll move it over here and I should have a gap on top, which I do. So I know that the head of this saw needs to go that way. And I checked already and I was against my stop, so I'm gonna need to adjust my stop on the back so that it allows the saw head to tilt over. So at this point it's pretty much just a simple matter of dropping the head and checking for square. And your adjustment on a DeWalt saw for the 0 is right here. And all you need is a 1/2-inch wrench and just make slight adjustments until you've got it right where you want it. But this is really important because, I would say flattening the base is really important, because if this was not straight, then you'd have your square getting off from one side to the other, which I've had, and is incredibly frustrating to try and calibrate a saw on one side to the other, because if you calibrate one side perfectly to 0 and then you go on to the other side and do a 5-cut test, it's going to be way off because you're not flat across here. So that's a really important step for this. Honestly, I just check it with a square, and occasionally I'll do a 5-cut test, but usually a square test is good enough for me on the bevel. So that's pretty much that. So actually I almost forgot to check the stops on the bevel here. This is a Starrett square, and this actually works pretty good. You can get a good idea pretty easily where you're at. Looked right on the money. As far as calibrating the 45-degree detents on the bevel is concerned, typically I'm only ever beveling at the 45 on 3/4 inch thick material. So if it looks perfect with that little square, that's going to be good enough. For me, the most important thing here is to get the 0-degree detent perfect, because that's what's going to throw things off cutting baseboard vertically, and especially really large crowns. We want that to be perfect.